Welcome to Wisdom Wednesday with Field Cup Learning Network. I'm your host, Joanne. Thank you for joining me again this week as we continue to dive into the topic of behaviors and behavior modification. Last week, if you remember, we just started this topic about behaviors and behavior modification, and we were looking into what to do when a student is acting out. And the example I gave was when a student is not responding to any redirection in the classroom, he's blurting out, he's shouting out, he's talking over you, and what can you do to a student to help with that? So if you want to learn more about that and you missed it, go back and watch last week's episode of what to do when a student acts out. This week, we're going to continue on with this topic about behaviors and behavior modification. We're actually going to slowly move into that, but we're going to still focus on behaviors. So this week, I'm going to dive into a behavior and talk about behavior that we oftentimes will see in a classroom, I would say with middle school students. Sometimes I would say you still also see it among 4th and 5th grade students as they're starting getting to that preteen stage. And it's a behavior, I would say, more typical than not, but among the boys, not that you won't see it in the girls. You will definitely also see it with the girls too, but I would say it a lot of times a little bit more with the boys for a reason, right? I'm going to do actually a little role play here and get it into that, so get ready for that so that it kind of gets you into that setting with me, all right? Yep. Can you guess what I'm doing? All right. I'll see you in a little bit. Morning, Joanne. Morning. Why do you have your hood up? Nothing. No reason. Oh. Well, can you put your hood down? We have a no hood and hat policy at our school. No, I don't want to do it. I don't want to. Well, I'm going to ask you to put your hood down. We have a no hood and hat policy at school. I told you, I don't want to, and I want to leave my hood on, so leave me alone. Well, Joanne, I'm going to tell you again, is you have to take off your hood. There's a no hat and hood policy at school. It's for your safety and everyone's safety. If you continue to do this, I would have to write you up. Ugh, fine. She did that. Does that look familiar to you? I know I have seen it more times than not, right? The student comes walking in, put their hood up, right at the beginning of class, and then goes down into their desk, sits down at their seat, and then they bury themselves in that hood. And you see that and you go over as a teacher to respond to that because there's a no hat and hood policy at school where students are not allowed to wear hats or hoods for everyone's safety, right? So that if a stranger comes walking in the school building, they know exactly what is going on, and right, and if it seems weird. And then students don't like that, and they're wearing their hoods, they think it's fun, they put on that hood, or they're wearing it for a reason, and they're walking around, right? And then you tell them to take it off, and you get almost into this power struggle thing, and they're not happy, you're not happy, you're getting frustrated, and they're getting frustrated and mad and angry at you. Well, instead of having that power struggle, have you ever tried to dig into more about that student's behavior and finding out what is going on behind the scenes in their head, in their brain, of what they're thinking, or in their heart of what they're feeling that is causing that behavior? And in this case, it's digging themselves, burying themselves in that hood and keeping it on for a reason and not wanting to take it off. So we're going to dive into that world of what that student might be thinking, right? So in my case, again, I'm going to use a scenario that I have bumped into. And it is, in this case, it's a student I'm going to name him Chris. So Chris is wearing his hoodie, right? And the teachers have asked him to take off his hood. And he is not responsive to it. He says no, does not want to. I actually get called to help out with the situation as the behavior specialist and saying, can you help here because Chris is not willing to take off his hood. I've done everything I can to get him to take that hood off. So I walk into the room, the classroom, and I'm trying to dig into Chris. He has his head buried in right on the desk with his hood over his head and is not looking at me, not responding to anything I'm saying, right? I'm going, hey, Chris, this is Miss Laura. I'm the behavior specialist. I'm here to help. Can I ask you what's going on? Your teacher told me that you're not willing to take the hood off. What's happening? And he's still not responding. So, I've just turned away. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But is it all right if I can have you come with me to another room? So as I've had this particular student actually come walk with me out of that classroom to get a change of scenery. And as I step out, he's still not happy, but at least he's starting to be a little more responsive. And then, I'm trying to think through at that moment, right? As I'm talking to the student, what is going on? What are those emotions that he's feeling? Have you ever bumped into something like that? Have you had a student like that? So you can comment below if you have or something similar to that and what you have done. I would love to hear your answers and what you have done. I'm going to give you an example of what I did in that moment and see if it's something that works out for you or give you another idea or if it's similar to what you have done. So I would love to hear what you've done. So remember to comment below in that comment box. I'm going to continue on with my story. So as I'm going on, right, trying to dig into Chris, trying to understand why he's wearing his hoodie and refuses to put it down or wouldn't take off his hat. Well, I'm starting to think what could cause Chris to be that way. If it's a preteen in 4th or 5th grade or a middle schooler or a high schooler, especially like when they're in that preteen to teenage years, there's usually a reason behind it, and that is that there's the big emotion that's popping out of their head, and it's the I am being embarrassed, right? That embarrassment where they might have just gotten a haircut and it wasn't what they thought it was going to be like, or because it's so new, they feel like they're going to be embarrassed by their friends, made fun of. And so this deals with another big emotion that is popping out of their head, and that is anxiety. And so they're like now anxious and nervous about, oh man, what's my friends gonna think about? And then it takes just one. Oh my goodness, hey Chris, you got a haircut? Oh my goodness, that looks, what did you do? And one friend that did that as soon as Chris walked into the door that day, right? He might have been so excited about his haircut, and it took that one friend to say that, and now he is fully embarrassed, right? And he's filled with that anxiety of and being anxious of like, I don't want another friend to say that to me. And so he is then wanting to make sure for the rest of the day, he has the sense of belonging, where he wants to have that sense where he's belong in his peer group with this group of friends, where they're not going to embarrass him anymore, right? And all those different things are now in the back of his mind. So the best solution is, I have a hoodie and I'm going to cover up my haircut. This way, no one can see my haircut. No one can make fun of it anymore. I can go throughout my rest of my day like normal, and I can feel that sense of belonging, where I'm going to still be accepted for who I am and no one's going to make fun of me. And so that I won't feel embarrassed, and it will remove that anxiety, right? So he keeps his hood up the whole day until the teacher tells him that he needs to take it off. Well, as soon as that part happens, the anxiety kicks in, the embarrassment kicks in. Now he's thinking about, oh my goodness, what is the so-and-so going to say in the classroom about my haircut? Are they going to embarrass me? Are they going to, right, do something? Are they going to laugh at me? And so sometimes what you might see is like, fine, they take it off and they make fun of themselves, right? To be the class clown, because once they make fun of themselves, it takes that edge off, right? So it's trying to understand as a teacher in the room of what is going on behind that behavior, and to understand the student with all these things that are going on in their head that you cannot see, right? I'm being reminded of the movies, the two movies, Inside Out and Inside and Out 2, that's in the theater still right now, that's talking about those emotions inside that teenager's brain, right? And you see it, and it's funny of like what they're doing with, you know, the emotion joy and sadness. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna cry about stuff, right? Or fear. I'm like, oh, don't do that, right? And you see that, and we think it's funny, but a lot of times that is the world of teenagers and how they are responding and thinking that we cannot see, right, and understand because it's inside of them. But that's what we need to do as a teacher, to kind of really pull them out as the adult in the room, to pull that out of especially our teens and our preteens, to get that out, get those emotions out of them, get them talking, but also not just get that out, is also to lower some of that anxiety, right? Those big emotions like the anxiety that's in them, the fear that's in them, to make them feel like it's a safe place for them to open up and tell you what's going on. So back to what I was saying with Chris, is when I was talking with Chris was, hey Chris, are you feeling embarrassed because you just got a haircut? As I usually see that with students who maybe just got a haircut and they like to put that hoodie up because a friend, or it might be more than one friend, it might be a couple of friends that had just made fun of you that morning, and now you're embarrassed and you don't want them to see the rest of the day, you know? And he goes, yeah, you're right. And the student, in this case, nodded. And sometimes I might go a step further, depending on my relationship with that student, and going, well, would you at least be willing to take off the hood for me with, there's no one else around? And that's just, you know, to see what happens. And there's sometimes the student would put it, you know, take the hoodie off, and then I might respond to that and be like, it actually looks really nice. I love your haircut, right? Give them that praise. And if they're not willing to, it's, you know, they're keeping it on, I would then explain to them, it's like, I understand it is really embarrassing and you don't like that haircut and your friends are making fun of you. That I said, but you know, just think they are just getting reacquainted with you with your haircut. And so they're going to respond to your haircut and make fun of it because that's the only way that they know how. It's not the best response, but it's the only way sometimes they know how. And so it's to let them know, it's like, but I love my haircut. It's like, think about what you love about it, right? And I would ask them that too. Don't you love your haircut? And they would usually go, yeah, I love it. Or sometimes it's like, no, I hate it. And I never liked it. It didn't do what I wanted. I was like, well, then you can also tell that to your friends. I know it's hard and for them to understand. But I was like, I hate to tell you this, but I know that it's hard for you to deal with some of those things and what your friends are doing. But let's try taking off your hood. Let's go back in the classroom and let's try that again. And I would say it sometimes takes them a while, right? And with this case, with the student, he really refused to take off his hood and his hat. And so it was after a while, though, a few minutes, where he made that decision. And I told him, well, let's just wait a few minutes and then let's try it. and let's get you comfortable with it. And if something happens, we can address it. And it did. He responded to it, and finally he took it off, and then he was fine, actually, because he realized nobody was looking at him. Nobody responded to him negatively the way his friend did in the morning. It was really teasing him, because friends sometimes tease him the most, right? And he realized that, and then he was fine the rest of the day. So those are different things that is to understand where that student's coming from when they're having such a strong behavioral reaction to you, when you really want them to follow that expectation, especially if it's for their own safety, especially if it's the school rules. And I hear it a lot with the teachers are going, well, it's a school rule. You got to do what I say. And the student does not respond to that. But it's digging deeper behind the reason why they're doing that action again and that behavior, so that you can help them to ultimately modify that behavior. So it's understanding that and understanding them, right? Understanding them behind the scenes, and where you're trying to dig into their brain of why they're doing the things that they're doing. So today, that's our focus, of understanding those bigger things, those bigger emotions, to dig deeper behind a behavior. So I would love, again, to hear what you have done. If you had bumped into a similar situation in a classroom, or even with your own child as a parent, what have you done? Or what are some of those things that you were thinking, and or you have questions about, like, I need help in this. I don't know what to do when they're acting or behaving this way. I would love to hear what you are struggling with, or what you have done, your experiences, and just even to learn from what you have done too, and it's just to be able to hear that. So please comment below, and in that comment box, I would love to hear you and what you've done. And I'm inviting, and this is your invitation to share that. And I'm also inviting you to, again, post any questions that you may have, and I will answer them in the next video next week as I share Wisdom Wednesday. And I would love to be able to do that, answer any questions that you may have about certain behavior that you don't know what to do. And we can focus on that. But I'm so happy that you joined me this week as we continue to dive in the world about behaviors and behavior modification. Remember that you can find me on Facebook, you can find me on Instagram, and also please subscribe and comment to my YouTube channel, which is Fill Your Cup Learning Network. And my handle on Instagram is Fill Your Cup Learning _, network. And you can also find me on Facebook, as I said, to Fill Your Cup Learning Network. So thank you again for joining me this week, and please comment and subscribe below. I will see you next week. Bye.
Like and subscribe.
Those are my kids who wanted to be part of our video this week. Hope you enjoyed that little surprise visit from my two guests.
Hi.
And they might join us again next week. See you, and have a great night. Be blessed. Bye.